Welcome to Type C Tech Reviews. Today we're going to be unboxing the BenQ Mobiuz EX2710U. If at any point during the video you want to check out this exact same monitor, there's Amazon links below for the US, UK, Canada, and international links. But let's get this thing unboxed. This is an exciting one for me. Currently at a price of $699.99 and a base price on Amazon, check the links below, of $799.99. So it's $100 off right now. So not a bad price for a lot of the specs here. 4K, HDMI 2.1 full bandwidth, great color coverage, and an HDR 600 nit rating. So, and then you get, I believe, integrated subwoofer. I don't know. All right, opening it up. Very good unboxing experience. All right, we have an HDMI 2.1 cable right here. The first half of the power cable, and then the power brick right here. Not a massive brick, which is actually a little surprising. Also, it looks like a very nice and long cable, so that's great. You then have a USB Type A to USB Type B, which means we got some USB ports. That's a good thing. And then we have a display port cable right here. Then you also have, all wrapped up nicely, a remote control, which is something that BenQ sometimes does. I believe BenQ has roots in projectors before monitors, but I might be wrong about that. But here we can see, pull that out. This should be for the battery, I believe. Maybe you have to undo that. But taking this off, a nice little remote. This actually feels very, very good. That's cool. This is actually gonna be very cool. And it comes pre-installed with a battery, I believe, so that's great. Then next we have a cover for the back plate. This will probably be for the ports. And then in here we have the manual and what I believe to be possibly a color calibration report. We'll see. Okay, so just a bunch of paperwork right here. And then we have the bottom half of the stand. BenQ always does a great job with stuff like this. And look at this. This has a bunch of cool features. I love BenQ's design team. They do such a great job. Okay, so this is the bottom of the stand. We can see metal right here. So that's actually very solid metal, and then plastic on the outside. So this is the top, kind of a silvery white right here, which is texturized. And then we have some plastic right here, and this is kind of this cool red right here. I like this design because it's gamery with the red, but it's not overly gamery. This could sit on a desk, which I really like in an office. All right, but let's get to the display itself. Taking this off, we've got the second half of the stand, which is very heavy actually, heavier than I was expecting. And look at that, absolutely beautiful. I love the sculpted edges. This is a very attractive stand. Definitely on par with Alienware. Very nice accents back here. This is very attractive. All right, let's put the stand together. All you gotta do for this is line it up, put it in, high quality thumb screw. All you're gonna need to do is screw this in with your hands. And that is a very attractive stand right there. Definitely top 10 for stands. This is very nice. It also looks like up here, we do have swivel, which is very cool. All right, and then putting this on, they do have this nicely pulled back. So all you have to do is line up the top here. Just line up those two top pins, put them in, press down, and it's locked in. Now you can pull it right out of the box. Pretty heavy, not the heaviest that I felt. And then lifting the plastic off, we have got this little thing. I don't know why that's on there. But then look around the back of the display. So we've got this audio system up here, which I believe has a subwoofer in it, although I might be wrong. Subscribe below for the full review coming in a few days, but sound coming out of the back. We also do have some on the front. Looks like we have some RGB elements here. We'll see if those actually get bright enough. And then looks like this has the Mobiuz, and that is what looks to be just a mirror effect right there. And then down here, we have your two HDMIs, which I believe are both 2.1, a display port right there, your audio out, your USB Type B upstream port, and then 4 USB Type A downstreams, which is absolutely awesome. So you got 4 USBs, which is very cool. Doesn't look like you get anywhere else besides just the back, but that still is very good. All right, let's turn this around to the front. And first impressions from how it looks really good. BenQ probably does some of the best designs in the industry, in my opinion, especially their Mobiuz line. Okay, so here we have this HDR button, which I've seen on a few of their other monitors before. And then for controls, we have a bunch of different stuff down here. So we have a dedicated power button, which I like. These two buttons over here, not sure what they do as of now. And then we have a joystick. So we'll have to see how that menu system is. But before we get this on the desk, do a full setup, and then initial impressions, gaming test, and a ghosting test, let's check out the stand. So we have height adjustability, pretty good, feels very nice and light. Tilt, quite a bit of tilt. Swivel, which is very nice. and it does not look like we have, so we have a tiny bit of rotation, and that's just for leveling, so no full rotation. All right, but let's get this set up on the desk, do an initial impressions, and then a gaming test and a ghosting test. Let's do it. All right, guys, turning on the monitor with the on button, which is right there. Turning it on, has a little bit of a glow. All right, and right away, it looks like a pretty display, but it's very dim. So let's go in and change the settings using the joystick, or nope, accidentally hit the power button. So that's not a good design. They feel almost identical as far as height. All right, so now using the joystick this time and going into the menu system. The menu system, not my favorite right away. As you can see, it kind of does this like see-through effect, which kind of looks cool, but you can see stuff behind it almost look like it is the menu system. So that's not really good. I don't really like that. So we'll go into menu. We have the different inputs here, HDMI 1, 2, DisplayPort. But let's go down to, we have quick menu, color mode. So I think this is going to basically be your settings, but it's currently in RPG. FPS is quite a bit brighter. Display HDR, Cinema HDRI, Game HDR. E-paper, which is actually pretty interesting if you do want to do some like reading at night, kind of like a black and white. It's kind of cool. MBook sRGB, which is nice to have. Racing game, and then RPG and FPS. I'm going to go and keep it in RPG, and we're going to go down to the brightness, which is currently at 59, not 50. Not 60, but 59. Let's turn it all the way up to 100. And turning it all the way up to 100, it is nice and bright. Not quite as bright as I was expecting, but let's go ahead and test it right now. Obviously, this is not a fully accurate test because it just turned on. However, just testing it out, yep, 300, 320, 315. Definitely not as bright as I was expecting. I was really expecting more in that 400 nit range. However, again, we haven't gone through all the settings, so it may change quite a bit. And we will have to see if HDR is a real thing with this. So we're gonna do that now. We're going to enable HDR, and we're gonna use this button right here, which then does Game, Cinema, Display, HDR. So just from looking at it, we're gonna keep it in display because that's the one that just looks best to me. However, the colors don't look quite right. However, we are just on desktop. Let's hop in game, but before we do so, we're gonna go into NVIDIA control panel, and it's running at full 144 hertz at 3840 by 2160 or 4K, and then it is outputting 10 bits of color as a standard. I think that's one of the only times we've ever seen a monitor from the factory output 10 bits of color over 8 bits of color, which is actually very cool, but I would expect that from BenQ. So that's very good. And while gaming, we are gonna be using these speakers, which is what that is right now. It doesn't sound too loud, so we're gonna go down here into audio, speakers, volume. It's at 25, so we're gonna turn that all the way up to 50, which is max, and we'll go down to audio mode. There's a bunch of different audio modes, which is actually very cool. We'll have to mess around with that. But again, that'll be in the full review. Let's hop in some Battlefield to see how this thing games. As not to get copyrighted, I'm going to turn that way down. However, speakers sound pretty good. Not quite as good as I think I was expecting, but again, those are just very immediate first impressions, so we're gonna have to see how good they are. However, the price point, that's good. For everything that you get, this may be very good. Let's make sure everything is running correctly. We are at 4K, full 144 hertz, and this is with HDR enabled because Battlefield 5, come on. All right, guys, hopping right in game. I'm gonna tell you right away, obviously, it's Battlefield 5, you're gonna get sniped. However, the image quality is absolutely fantastic. This is 4K at a 27-inch screen size, so the PPI is incredibly high. It's also buttery smooth, but that's what you would expect from 144 hertz. I'm also gonna tell you right away, just from a feeling, not testing, obviously this is not the full review, but the input lag is very, very low, which is a great thing. The other thing is the speakers actually sound quite good. I'm gonna turn those down a little bit. It's gonna affect the image quality because Battlefield 5. But so far, I'm actually very impressed with the HDR. I would expect that coming from BenQ as they're very good with tuning displays, both with color and just overall. BenQ's understanding of displays is, well, it's far superior than basically every other company out there. However, you do kind of pay a premium for that, but with this monitor, with the integrated speakers, the build quality overall, and so far the HDR being quite good. Obviously, you're not getting any local dimming here. This is not mini LED lit, but the price does not reflect that. This is just an IPS panel. I mean, it's very pretty. I would say just from first impressions, HDR is probably what you're going to want to game in mostly, especially if the game that you're playing does, if it is optimized quite well for HDR. The colors on this are absolutely fantastic. Now, I don't know anything about accuracy right now as of just testing this, but just from a looks perspective, in HDR, the colors are absolutely stunning. I mean, look at the colors on these buildings right here. The red, even though it's a muted red, it just looks absolutely beautiful. The light coming in, all of the ray tracing, but the HDR doing its job, just looking absolutely stunning. The colors on this are definitely a big deal for me, at least. I mean, this is a very, very pretty HDR experience. Not something like you would expect from a OLED, obviously, because this is only an IPS panel with no mini LED, with no local dimming. At least I believe so. I don't believe it has any local dimming. We'll look there. So it actually has this peak brightness, normal and max, which is interesting, but it is set to max, which is good out of the box. So yeah, I do not believe that it has local dimming, which I would expect at this price point. A very enjoyable experience to game on. Very pretty, and even though this doesn't have the highest peak brightness that I've seen, the colors and the highlights definitely in HDR do get bright. Bright enough to have a very enjoyable gaming experience. Now, as far as ghosting, I mean, this ghosting looks very good. It looks very, very minimal. Let's do an in-depth test, and let's do that now. All right, now I will say when turning HDR off, the display does get quite a bit more dim. So I will say, if you're into HDR, this is probably what it's going to be. And again, HDR for IPS panels, yes, no local dimming, no incredible contrast ratio. However, if you're into IPS panels, you are going to like this, and the HDR experience is where it's at. All right, now just looking at the ghosting right away, I mean, it's very good. It's incredibly minimal. Let's go in and see if there are any settings that we can adjust. Now, I'm not sure exactly where this is. We have a blur reduction setting, so we'll try that. I don't know if this is motion picture. So we do have a motion blur reduction, which does actually look like it works very well. And I will say that because most of these, usually almost all of them, if not all of them, do not allow variable refresh rate because it locks it at that highest refresh rate. However, most of them dim your display a lot, and this one only dims it a very small amount. So this is something that we'll definitely have to be looking for in the review. This looks like something a lot of you may end up using quite a bit. I will say overall, the menu is a little bit, well, it's not easy to determine where everything is. I'm not sure where the response time settings are, or even if there are response time settings. So this menu system, it's not bad and it's very fast to respond, but overall it's not my favorite. It's a little bit cluttered. All right, but again, if you want to check it out, there are Amazon links below for the US, UK, Canada, and international links, or go subscribe below for the full review coming very, very soon. This one is going to be a fun one, and well, I think this is going to be a really great monitor. All right, but this is Type C Tech Reviews, and I'll see you guys in the next video.